And we've begun recording.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Ernest Covington III. I'm the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Commission on the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. Very nice to see all of you. And it's my pleasure to welcome Cindy to talk to us about resume writing. Cindy Hebert. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ernest. I'm glad to be here.
So if you would like to start your presentation, Cindy.
Okay. Okay, so you have control over it. I sent it to you. So will you start the presentation?
Okay, just one moment. One moment, give me one moment, I apologize.
Sure.
Okay. So, and one moment, I need to spotlight Carol Fay. Okay. All right, go ahead, Carol.
Okay, I don't see myself. If you see me, that's fine. Let me turn on gallery.
If you can wait one moment. Just
I'm good. I'm good. I see myself.
Just a second. So if anyone has any issues with viewing the interpreter, please let me know in chat, and we will begin our presentation now. Go ahead, Cindy.
Thank you. Thank you, Bethany. Good afternoon. Welcome to Resume Writing and Interview Tips. Cindy Hebert, a career counselor at the workplace. I work with individuals seeking employment, providing job readiness skills in a program called Platform to Employment. And I'm very excited to be here today to give this workshop so you may use this information to get a job. Next.
Oh, my goodness, there we go.
Today I'll be discussing resume writing. I'll touch a little bit on cover letters, preparing for the interview, interview questions, and then questions from you. Next. How important is your resume? Well, it's a tool to get an interview, right? It's believed that the average recruiter or hiring manager will look at your resume for only 6 seconds before making a decision. 6 seconds. So you want to make sure you do your best into presenting the information on your resume where they can access the information very easily and make them choose yours. Next.
Oops, let me go back.
Think of the resume and how you're going to be presenting using the 4 Ps. Okay, so painless, which is easy to read, well organized, use bold to make things stand out, and use the same font throughout the resume. The most popular fonts nowadays are Calibri, which is the default for Microsoft Office, Arial, and Helvetica. Perfect. Proofread or have someone else proofread for spelling and grammar, and keep your punctuation consistent.
Cindy, can I please request that you close your video? We're having some issues with the interpreter being seen on screen.
Okay, it is closed. I just have, I don't have it open. Oh, you mean so, at the bottom? Okay, start video.
Okay. Okay, give me just one moment. I apologize for the technical difficulties.
It is closed off.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, is that okay? All right, and page. So there's no perfect length for your resume. Usually, though, it's 1 to 2 pages. And for some people, if you have extensive work experience, 3 Margins, keep it 1/2 inch to 1 inch. And the position. So you want to write your resume specific to the position you are applying for. You want to use keywords from the job description. Next. Why do you want to use keywords from the job description? Well, now applicant tracking systems are being used. What is an applicant tracking system? Well, it's a software that selects top applicants. Companies use these now, the software system, to screen out people because they get hundreds of resumes and for every job description or job that's posted. So they need to weed them out, and they put in keywords to select those top applicants. Okay, so you need to put in the keywords from that job description into your resume. It must be matched in order to get noticed, or else your resume is just going to get kicked out. How do you find those keywords? Well, when you read the job description, you look at the job titles, the skills, the hard and soft skills, technical skills, and credentials. And if you have those, you want to make sure you highlight them in your resume. Next. Writing for applicant tracking systems is something that you should be doing each time you apply for a job and writing the resume. So you save the, you write the resume in Word, not PDF, because the applicant tracking system can't scan your resume unless the application requires PDF, but normally they require Word, so it can be scanned. And the format, want to use chronological or combination format, which has chronological and skills, not functional. Again, the applicant tracking systems, or ATS, likes the chronological and combination, okay? And also headings. You need to have headings and to keep them simple and keep the resume simple. You want to have content over style, not fancy graphics, because the ATS, when it scans your resume, again, it might kick it out, and you don't want that to happen. You want it to be recognized. You match the job titles from the job posting on your resume and put your critical hard skills at top. Remember what I said about the most important information, or the length of time where a hiring manager or recruiter might be looking at your resume is 6 seconds. Well, they're looking mostly what's on top. So you put your skills on top, okay, and your summary. You want to tailor the information to match the job posting. That's crucial. Next. Just skip one. I don't know if I, no. Oh, I guess I had it wrong. Okay, yep. Okay, this is the outline of a resume with headings, and not all have to be used. So you have your heading, which on top your name, contact information, the summary or profile. Those words are used interchangeably. Skills, experience, additional or prior experience, if you want to put that in. Education, if you have military experience. Volunteerism, or volunteer work, or civic engagement, and honors, awards, and professional organizations. Next. Okay, this is a template for a resume to give you an idea of what to write. And even we have here of when to bold and the font to use and the size, so it's easy for you just to, as a guide of starting to put your information in, and that can be helpful. So you can use this again as a guide. If you notice in the experience area, professional experience, you have the company and job title, describe the main job duties in 2 or 3 sentences. You don't list all of the duties. You have an accomplishment or one-liner from the job to show it's relevant to the open position. Next, the heading, your contact information. An email address that's used a lot these days is Gmail. That's very popular. It's recommended you have a professional email address. You want your first and last name, and that you don't want something that's cutesy or something that's not professional. Again, your first and last name, it's what's preferred. And also something like AOL is outdated. If you're older, don't have an AOL account, it shows you're older. And so try to have something that's more current for an email address and provider. And then one phone number, and make sure that if someone called that number, that the mailbox is not full, or you want to make sure also if there's a voicemail, it accepts messages and that it's professionally dictated. And also your URL for LinkedIn. Hopefully you have a LinkedIn account. My colleague John Mountain will be talking about LinkedIn on Thursday. If you don't have one, or if you do, if you want to get better at it, please join in on Thursday. So for the heading, you want to have 20-point font, and so that's in bold. Make it nice and big, stand out. Okay. Next. So the profile, that goes next underneath the heading. And objective is no longer used. The profile is summary, or professional summary, they're referred to as those terms. It gives an overview and detail of who you are, what it is you do, the types of companies you work with, and why you are great at your job. Okay, sometimes you can look at a job description and use their wording, what the company is looking for. If they're looking for someone with good communication skills, and just look at the buzzwords, words they have for the hard and soft skills, and you can put that in the job description. Next. Here are a couple samples of.
One moment, I just need to switch interpreters. One moment, please. Okay, go ahead, Simon. And go ahead, Cindy.
Here are a couple samples of profile statements. As you noticed, you write in the name of your registered nurse and the job you're applying for as a registered nurse. You're going to put it there. You don't write profile or summary, because you registered nurse would be one of the key words from the job description. You want to put it into your resume so it's going to get picked up. The more keywords you have from that job description in your resume will help your resume get noticed, okay? And same thing for customer service representative. So that's what you're going to put there above your statement. And so just have 2 or 3 sentences, something specific, and you make your words count. And it's not generalizing. If you notice, the registered nurse, bilingual nursing graduate with experience in rural healthcare. So you get an idea already of this person and their experience. So here's some examples, and sometimes if you're stuck on trying to find a statement and to use wording, there's resources at the end of this presentation and links. Also, I've always done a lot of web searching. Say if I was a registered nurse and I wanted to Google profile statements for registered nurses and get ideas so to make it easier to write one. Next.
Oh, there we go.
Yep. Skills. So there are hard and soft skills. And employers prefer the hard skills written in the skills section. The skills section comes next underneath the profile statement. And that's what they're pretty much looking for when those hiring managers and recruiters, when they're scanning down, they want to look at the hard skills. And those are anything that can be learned or taught. You know, those technical skills, languages, industry practices, and software that you use. That's like I guess we call the meat and the bones, you know, then you want to save the soft skills, the interpersonal skills, you know, good communicator, multitasker, team player. You put those in your profile statement, and you can put them in the experience sections. And in the experience section, you're going to show, like tell a story by leading off a bullet, for instance, and telling how you performed a skill on a job. For example, if you're a team player, say you led department team to surpass monthly goals by 10%. So that's showing your soft skill in that job experience. Next. Here's a couple samples of the skills section. You can write skills and expertise. There's similar headings. Because of the ATS, the Applicant Tracking System, searches, but it goes by headings. It likes to know where to look for that information. So you don't want to get too fancy and changing the headings a lot. So you can keep it simple. So each of these skills examples are specific to that applicant's industry. And if you notice, there's some software mixed in there that they have, and you can get an idea of that person just by reading of their skills, just by reading the sample. Next, experience. So also you can use experience, work experience, or professional experience as headings. So for your work experience, you just want to go back about 15 years. There's no reason to go too far back, and that's the general length of time now people are using, okay? And you want to list your jobs reverse chronologically, which means the most recent jobs first. And you want to write the past jobs in past tense and the present jobs in present tense. That's a very big thing when people are looking at employers, looking at resumes. It's like a stickler, like spelling things wrong. You know, they want things in the right tense, okay? And when you're writing your experience, you're not writing a novel or a book, you know, you write bullets and not paragraphs. And just for when you're describing your job duties, that can be 2 or 3 lines, but you'll see after the example. And when you do list your job duties, just write the most important. You don't write a large amount of them. There's no need to do that. And you want to use action words and accomplishments. How well you did your job and how you made a difference. Why? Because potential employees want to see the benefit you provide. Next. So action words will clarify your message. Here are 2 examples. And the first one lacks strength and clarity. Look, held weekly status meetings to share client updates. And the second one is the same idea of the first sentence, but it's more empowered and detailed. You spearheaded instead of held. You spearheaded weekly status meetings, and you communicated agency revenue growth instead of shared client updates. See how the second one is more powerful? So that's something that you want to consider as the action words and a little more detail in your bullets. Next. The most preferred, if you can, for accomplishments is to use the STAR method. That's where you have a situation or task, and then the action and a result. And sometimes you can't go as detailed as this, but this is the best way to show it. And also it shows up in your interview that I'll be talking later on. So you want to get used to writing accomplishments and to have a couple or a few of these, prepare these under your belt for both the resume and interviewing. Think about how you've done things to help your company where you've worked. And this is an example, if you read through, I'm not going to read through it all, of an accomplishment of where there was a task and the action taken and the result and the resulting accomplishment at the bottom. Next. And for your experience, here's an example. You have the company where you work or been working up on top, and always put the city and state. Next, your job title, and to the right, the date. Always put the month in, because the ATS likes to have months, and they're a stickler for that. And have 2 or 3 sentences that describes the main, sort of like a summary of the jobs of what you do at your workplace. And then underneath, what are bulleted are your accomplishments. And look how they headed out with power words. You oversaw, partnered, generated, represent. Those are more powerful words to use and action words, and it makes the sentence look really good. And but also, if you have any metrics, any numbers that you can put in, as you can see in this experience example, there's some there from on the top, and talk about 3 million to 5 million, or where you generated 3.5 million return on investment. There's different ways to include the metrics and numbers in your job descriptions. And if you do some web searching, and again, there's resources at the end of this presentation that can be helpful in trying to quantify your accomplishments and how you did that. Next. Education. Okay. So here you have, if you went to college, you have that first, and then after the year you graduated, unless you're somewhat older and you don't want to show your age and you can omit that, that's fine. And then you have your degree, and if you want to list honors and activities or associations, and write that also. And you can add trainings, the most recent first. If you have college listed, there's no need to write the high school. Next. Here's an example of a resume, and I'm sorry it's distorted for this screen because of course it doesn't usually look as horizontal as this, but it's just so I can get the whole resume in so you can see it all. But see on top you have the contact information, and then the summary. The job Jane Doe is applying for is marketing communications manager, and that's the experience she has. And then listing her skills, and then some work experience that she has had. And look how they're written very clearly. Someone gets the information, and then the education. If you notice also underneath the last job experience in italics, where she writes previous experience, so she slid that in there, and that's gives an idea also some other work experience she had. So you don't have to have a whole section just for that, if it's just something short. Okay, next. Additional experience or prior experience can be added. That's especially good if people are older and they want to omit dates and they don't want to show their age. And that's, say, like at the bottom, prior experience, store manager, stop and shop. But so you don't have to put all the information, or job descriptions aren't needed. It's just to show you have done something more if you want to show you're a store manager, and that you can talk about that in the interview. Okay. Next. Volunteer experience. This is very important if you've done this, and can be put into 2 sections, one or the other. You can even have its own section, as noted. You can put volunteer experience or civic engagement. And as this person with a project coordinator, that's some good experience there. So this is something very valid that you might want to put on your resume. But also, if you didn't want to put that, if you had a gap, it's very good. You can work it into your experience section. But just make sure you don't put work experience, because it is volunteer. And if you put it under the experience section, put it in accordingly to the dates, chronologically, and just put it in parentheses that was volunteer. But you can showcase so many of the skills that you have learned volunteering, and it really bumps up a resume and can be very advantageous. Next. Cover letter. Yes, include unless you are told not to, which you probably jump up and down when you don't have to include a cover letter, right? I know it's a lot of work after applying for jobs, or filling out the application, and putting the keywords in for your resumes, and tailoring your resume. But still, many recruiters, I know they don't read cover letters, but it's important to include a cover letter with your application, to think about it in a positive light. And it's an opportunity to sell yourself and to show your personality. You can't do that in your resume. Just make it easy to read, and you want to make it to look match the look of your resume, with the same font, and have 1-inch margins, and keep it to a single page. That's all. 3 to 4 paragraphs. Make sure you proofread just like the resume. Mistakes can cost you the interview. And don't repeat words, especially I. There's nothing worse if you have a cover letter that says I. Think about the cover letter. It's about the company, what you can offer at that company. And you want to tailor it, each cover letter, for that job. Next. Okay, the format and content. So you have your heading. Again, same as your resume, the date, the inside address, which is the contact person, the title, company address, and the greeting. So if you don't have their name, write hiring manager. Do not write to whom it may concern. What's most widely accepted now, if you don't have the name, is the hiring manager. And the intro paragraph. So you want to make it personalized. You want to say, you want to tell them where you heard about the position, but why you're applying for the job, and make sure you show that you've researched the company. You can say something about the mission statement. Read about the company online and just get excited about it. See where you would fit into that place, and look at maybe highlight the top 3 skills that they're requiring, and show in the body paragraph how you have done this at other places. So you can show, that you could benefit working for them. In a closing paragraph, just make it very easy, and look forward to hearing from them and thank them. Then sincerely, best regards, type name, right?
We're gonna switch interpreters, so just one moment.
Next slide.
Okay.
Here's a sample of a cover letter to give you an idea of the format. Again, the top looks like a resume, and so it's once you get used to writing these and to make them personalized, and it's easier to do. And so this is a good guide to go by. Next. Congratulations, your awesome resume has been recognized. Or they saw you on LinkedIn also, and they want to interview you. Next, now to prepare. Next slide. Preparing for interview questions. I'll discuss knowing yourself, know the opportunity, the types of interview questions. There's 3 types: practicing, and strategies and questions to ask the interviewer. So who are you? You have to know yourself, your strengths and accomplishments. You really have to be able to talk in the interview about your strengths and accomplishments and think about them, write them down, and it'll help you in the interview just to be more confident and straightforward and bring enthusiasm and becoming more comfortable as you practice saying the words out loud. Okay? And know the opportunity. So again, you research the company and dissect the job description and see where do you fit? How can you contribute? I did that for myself before I got the job at where I'm working, and I could visualize and see myself at the workplace. So I really scoured the company and the job description and say, yes, I can do this. And it really helped me with my interview and feeling a lot more confident. Next. So you have standard interview questions. Okay. Tell me about yourself. Why did you apply for this position? Your strengths, your weaknesses, your accomplishments. So those you can study up on, right? And you know, some of the examples are for tell me about yourself. They want a professional brief. They don't want to hear about your family life or personal stuff. It's all about your professional life. And don't make it too long. Say about 2 minutes tops. You want to talk about your professional life and how you got to where you are today and what led you there. And again, don't make it too long. So, and just talk about who you are, what you do, and what you want to do. And your strengths. Think of any skill they are requiring for that job. Apply to the job you're applying for, right? And so you can talk about that. And about your weaknesses, make it small and demonstrate how you overcame it. Never describe a weakness that involves a skill the company requires. For example, you wouldn't say that you have problems talking to people when you're applying for a sales position. That wouldn't be good. If they ask you, why'd you leave your last job? Have formulated a short answer. Be honest, but no blaming. Never anything negative about anybody. Or say the job wasn't the right fit, the position turned out different than what was advertised, and again, never talk badly about former employers. Currently, because of the pandemic, a lot of people are maybe laid off, and that's perfectly fine to say your job ended or you were laid off because of the virus. So many people in this situation, so it's okay to say that. If they ask, why should we hire you? You can state all the reasons why you're a good fit for the job, which you should have done in your cover letter, and go over the main requirements and say you've done those and how well you did them in other jobs, and adding accomplishments. Next. Behavioral interview questions. You might get these. Tell me about a time when you handled a difficult situation with a coworker, or worked effectively under pressure, or worked with others to complete a project. So you always want to have stories in mind for this kind of question. And you want to write these down and just go through your planner or through your just your work history or notes if you have them, to think about times so you can write down about the situation. You're going to have to tell a little story about what happened with the situation and how it went. And so it's just something that you'll probably be asked, and so it's very good to plan ahead of time, and so you'll have something to talk about and to showcase how you behave, right? And you might want to always have like 2 examples in mind, one in working with a difficult colleague and one working with a difficult client. You state the problem, how you resolved it, and the outcome. You don't talk too long, but just enough to get the scenario told. Try to make an example of the kind of problem they may come up with at the place you're applying to. Next. Situational interview questions. So these are similar to behavioral, but situational will be hypothetical. They would ask you something in the future, like how would you solve this problem? And they might talk about it at the industry, if it was in construction, or how would you solve a problem if there's some accident on the construction site. So, and you're preparing, you have to look, like the behavioral questions, at your past experiences and how you handled problems. You want to show initiative and how you contributed to the outcome, but you want to select always challenging experiences that show your strength and positive attributes. It's very crucial about the kind of stories that you tell, and make sure it's big enough and challenging enough to really make you look good. You don't want to choose something very small. Okay. Next. Just like I talked about earlier with your resumes, writing, same thing about using the STAR method, where there was a situation, task, action, and result about in answering these questions. And so you want to think about that in a way of coming up with stories to tell. And see, employers they believe that past behavior is taken as an indicator of future performance. In other words, if you've done it once, you can do it again. Employers believe that they get more qualified candidates who will perform better in the role. Next. More questions about why you, for working for an interview, why'd you leave your last job? And have formulated a short answer. Maybe it wasn't the right fit, or wasn't what was advertised, right? And why should we hire you? State all the reasons you're a good fit for the job, and how to approach part-time and temporary assignments. You know, if you're doing contract work and temporary, that's fine. Just write and talk about that you needed to pay your bills and take the positions while learning new tasks, but you still were applying for full-time positions. And how do you handle the interview if you're overqualified? Well, just be truthful about the situation, that, you know, if you need to work, but also the job is one that you want and are passionate about. They may be worried that you're going to leave if something better comes up. But if you're really sincere and really convey that you want that job and you're passionate about it, they're more apt to consider you. And why do you have gaps? Explain the situation clearly but briefly. There's so many reasons why people have gaps, but it's best to be honest, but don't apologize. Show that the situation has ended, it was no longer a factor. Reiterate your position, interest in their position, and bring the focus back onto the job interview in this position. So you don't want to go on and on and on. Again, clearly but briefly, no apologizing, and just move on. Next. When they ask, do you have questions for us? Never say, no, I don't have any questions. You always be prepared and have 3 to 5 questions for the interviewers in different areas. So you have the position or organization or the process. For the position, you can ask, why is this job available? What are the challenges of the job? Can you tell me a typical day? What does that look like? And the organization, you can ask about the management style, or how is the work environment? And the process, you can ask about what is the next step for this job, you know, after the interview ends, and do you need more information from me? And that last question is good, because in case they it gives them an opportunity to fill in or to ask you questions to something that you've already gone over, but then they might be still unsure of. So that can be very helpful. It helps if when you've researched the company enough that you come up with some intelligent questions about the organization, like where is it headed, and if you've read about it in the news or what they're doing. So it really shows more that you're very invested in this position. And don't ask about salary, benefits, or time off. Let them bring it up first. Next. Next, rehearsing. Okay, you want to prepare those answers. Again, you research the past jobs, go through your planner notes or talk to other people and make sure you have that all down so you can tell the stories and to focus on all the great things that you did at your other jobs. And also for questions and answers, you can do a web search. They're out there so many questions that can be asked in an interview. And so many times, though, you prepare for certain questions and they never ask them. And so that can be difficult, but still, if you think, if you can just relax and just be prepared for anything, it can be easier. In preparation, you want to use a video camera or mirror and try to not use a lot of ums, likes, and your nose. Mock interviews are great if you can do that with a friend, family, counselor. That's something, mock interviews that my colleague and I do with people at our job, and they find it is so helpful because it just gives them a dry run through an interview. And even though the questions might not be something, it's more or less the anticipation and just, it gets a lot of the nerves out, let's put it that way. So that can be very helpful and we recommend it. Note cards also, you can write questions on one side and then on the reverse side, write an answer. So just to be prepared as much as you can. Next. Interview day, yay! Now here's your chance to shine. And hopefully you prepared a lot for the interview method and make sure if there's technology or whatever setup you have, it's all good. And so you, everything is running and that you also have backup plans. That can be very helpful if things go south, right? And if there are issues, just try to roll with it. It shows better that you're a kind of person who can roll with problems. But anyway, more planning is best. And so business attire, always dress up and look good, right? And try not to have distractions in your environment, whether there's phones, dogs, noises, or anything like that. Try to limit those and not have them there. You want everything to be professional. You want to exude confidence, right? Good posture, smile and relax. Connect and have eye contact if you can with the interviewers, and you just want to be able to relate to them, okay? When a question is asked, it's okay to ask for clarification or for it to be repeated. That's fine. You want to pause. Don't speak too fast. Be clear and concise. Don't go on too long. Okay? Always speak positively. That's a very huge thing. No one wants to hire a negative person. So whatever you say and however you say it should always be positive. And also ask for the job, okay? 80% of candidates do not ask for it. I asked for my job. I wanted it, so that, well, this is if you want the job. I wanted the job and I asked for it. And I surprised myself because I've never done that before. And the interviewer, who's now my supervisor, he laughed. And I was just very confident. I say, when can I start? I want this job. And I got it. Next. After the interview, send thank you emails to all the interviewers within 24 hours. This is very, very important. So get everybody's contact information before or after, and make sure you get those emails out, make them unique to each person. You might, because sometimes they might compare notes. They don't want something that's so generic that went out to everyone. And in it, in the thank you email, you can add to or clarify information from the interview, and you reiterate what makes you a good match and why you want to work at that company, but what you can offer them. That's the biggest thing, what you can offer them and how their company can benefit from hiring you. Next, the final tips for the resume. Tailor the resume to each job. And again, if you haven't heard about applicant tracking systems, they're out there and they're being used by most of the companies because they don't have so many people in HR that are reading each resume that are coming in, and they have to use this software to weed out the resumes. You have to put those keywords in there from the job description. Use a highlighter and highlight those keywords that you have and make sure it's in your resume so it can get matched. Make the information easy to find for that for the software, but also when hiring managers, when it gets to a hiring manager and recruiter, when they're looking through it, don't forget the 6 seconds, and they're scanning up there. They want to make it easy to find, clear, and they don't want a novel either. They don't want it so long. Just focus on skills and accomplishments, all those wonderful things that you have and that you did. For the interview, when you get it, after you write this wonderful resume, be prepared. Respond clearly and concisely. Exude confidence. Keep an open mind and be positive. Relax, smile, and be yourself. Next. Thank you. And here are resources. Some of many, again, there's so much information on the web, and I'm sure you're able to find this information, but here are some good resources that I use a lot in advising people, and for also for this presentation, it's a wealth of information. Now I'm ready to take questions if anybody has any, and I'll do my best to answer them. Does anybody have any questions?
Anthony will switch interpreters.
Okay. So it looks like Jeannie has a question.
Sure. Yes, Jeannie. Hello.
Simon, your microphone is off. Hang on. Interpreter.
Hi, I'm Jeannie, and I work with the Rhode Island School for the Deaf. I work with the high school students.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
And I'm helping the students develop their resume. Of course, they're young right now, and they have very limited experience. So the resume might look a little bit different. Mm-hmm. Do you have any resources for younger candidates? Because I would really appreciate that if you could share that with me to see what an updated resume should look like as I go through these changes. For example, as you were explaining in the resume, not to include all the functions in there, because it's generally a mixed combination. But so now for the students, I know that would be, what would that look like now? Because there is very limited experience with them. So I was wondering if there's something that you can share with that would be beneficial for the high school students.
Okay, I've never worked with high school students, but I've worked
One moment, let me just highlight the interpreter. One moment, please. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I've never worked with high school students, but I've worked with many people with sparse backgrounds and information to put on resumes. And I always like a creative challenge. And right off the top of my head, I can't think, I'd have to do some research to see how I can help you better. If any of the students have done any kind of volunteer work, you want to get that down there. Write that down. And their skills, they probably have skills. It's probably ways to write their
usually a lot
skills.
of them have the summer jobs.
Okay, there you go. Right. Okay, there's ways to beef up resumes, and it's more of a creative endeavor, but I know there's a way to do that, and I'd be glad to get in touch with you and work with you more on that, and I'd love that challenge. But I'm sure there's information. Everyone has something to offer, and there's ways to present it on a resume.
All right, thank you.
So
Are there-
oh, I was going to say if she could email me after, or I could email her. My email is at the end of on the last slide. Any other questions?
One moment, let me spotlight her. I'm sorry, we're having, okay. I just want to make sure that Jenny is spotlighted. Okay, go ahead.
Carol, can you get her? I just lost her on the video.
I got this. Okay. So another question, again, as I said earlier, I do work with high school students, and some of their vocabulary is somewhat limited, their terminology. We do have a list of empowering words that might be useful. How concerned should we be if their empowering words don't really match their what they end up saying in their interviews? In other words, in the live interaction, they may not match what they've written down in terms of vocabulary.
Yes, I understand the concern, because you don't want to portray yourself as something you're not, and you want to be honest.
Yeah, you don't want to put a
we
false
just-
front, and you know, especially if you've just copied those empowering words, and then yeah.
Okay. Well, for their circumstance, since they're younger, maybe not use words that are so impactful unless they have them. Some may have some of those qualities that stand out, but it's good, I guess, in using the dictionary to make sure of the strength of the word is maybe a similar word or something not so strong that matches them.
I got it, Carol. I got back.
Okay.
And I just thought of something that came up. You know, I thought that maybe we could also use interpreters to, you know, accommodate in terms of getting the appropriate vocabulary to make a good match for it, in terms of the job description, so forth, and then allow them, you know, because I didn't realize that the interpreter would also be helpful in facilitating that to make it more fluent, you know, to help that individual to be equivalent to that person's register.
Okay.
So I look forward to hearing from you by email, okay, in terms of you sharing the resources for the youth. I really appreciate that for the young students.
Well, sure. I'd love to help.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? If anybody thinks of any questions after, they can always email me. Hebert@workplace.org.
What was that email again? I'm sorry.
CHEBERT@workplace.org.
This is Ernest. I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you mind spotlighting me, Bethany?
Yep, just one moment. Give me, okay.
Hi.
Hello.
Okay, great. Hello. So I have a question for you. You know that many deaf and hard of hearing individuals are very sensitive in terms of work and stuff like that with the federal government, and they take local jobs and so forth. And so it's really related to government work. And what I've noticed about government employers is that, you know, there's a lot of, you know,
They want to hire people with disabilities.
and they look at their resumes, and their resumes do look good. But sometimes if a deaf or hard of hearing individual, you know, applies for a state or a municipal job or something like that with the resume, or do they need a little bit to expand on that because of the fact that they don't have those government job background? And so it's not a standard, so they have to explain the vocabulary. Do you have something that can elaborate on that, the tips for the deaf and hard of hearing people who are going to interview, the type of vocabulary and vernacular they're going to utilize in their interview?
Okay.
Give me
think I
one moment
understand.
to spotlight. And
So Cindy, it's government jobs. If a student doesn't have previous government experience.
Right. And for the resumes, because I've worked at 2 state agencies, I do know that it's important, again, to use the keywords from the job description in order to have your resume get looked at. That is huge. And also with networking, if you know someone who works there, that's very important. And having been on LinkedIn, if you have a LinkedIn site, is very important. So both the keywords in the job description and that from that position that's posted, and also networking if you know someone who can speak about you or that you've been connected with at that agency. That's very helpful. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you. Because I know that, you know, the networking is very important as well. Hold on, can you spotlight?
I am trying. One moment, please.
I'm here for backup, Simon. So
Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. I haven't spotlighted on me. Okay, thank you. Okay, it's a good question. I really appreciate that, you know, that taking those vocabularies from the job posting and so forth. But I was also wondering if you can explain to it, like in the deaf and hard of hearing community, the difference between federal and state and local municipality interviews. The process is different and how to go about their resumes, because I would imagine that, you know, many deaf and hard of hearing people think that the application process and the interview process is very similar, but it's not. They're probably different in each category between state and federal and local. So is there something that you can expound on that, what the expected protocol is?
And how they
Wait, just
differ from other jobs.
give me one moment to spotlight the interpreter. One moment, please. I apologize. Zoom is. There we go.
I do know for federal positions, they're very involved with the applications and very detailed. I believe the applications, and it's very long and intricate, and you want to make sure all your information is correct, because maybe more background checks will be done. And those jobs are fewer, but they're out there. State jobs is application process isn't as extensive as federal, and with city or municipal even less so, but they can be all involved. Again, it's always good for networking, and if you know people who work at those places or who can you can use as references. And if it's more municipal, I believe it's even more so for the networking, that you know someone who works there. The one, when you go down more to that level, that's very important, and you want to know more about the community and show more that you know about that community. Is that helpful?
Yes, it is. Thank you so much.
So I'm just going to ask Ernest to pop on up here. And I will spotlight him. Give me one moment. It takes just 1 second. Give me one moment. I apologize. There we go.
Okay, I just want to say thank you, Cindy, you know, for coming to give your presentation today for the webinar to elaborate on, you know, resume writing and interview tips for communication. I think that's very important, you know, especially when the demand for work is very high right now, especially for the deaf and hard of hearing population, because there's earnestly seeking work out there. And I wanted to give them, you know, the training and the experience to be well prepared, you know, in their job search, you know, because in a time of where a lot of layoffs are taking place, that population that's deaf and hard of hearing is at a more severe disadvantage than the regular population of people who can speak and hear. In fact, any of the disabled population, because it's 15% higher. So I wanted to thank you, Cindy, for taking that time to explain about, you know, resumes and interviewing and so forth like that. And if you know, and I would like to have this website available so that it could be shared with other people to look forward to that at a later date. You know, and you know, it could be used in the mainstream school for many of those students who are in the special ed and stuff like that, because they need that extra help in making the resumes and so forth. So I would like to make that website very available to all those. So I want to thank you for your time, and it was really appreciated. And thank you for taking the time to come in today for Zoom. And so this is going to benefit a lot of the people. And at the same time, I'd like to thank everybody who's done this meeting here. And next Thursday, we're also going to be sending out the word, you know, who for other individuals who may want to join next Thursday. So please, you know, share this link, you know, afterwards. And then afterwards, I'm going to be posting it on Facebook, you know, and all the other social media platforms, so we can let other people know about it, because this is really critical information for everyone, in fact. So I do want to thank you for that so much, for your presentation today.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Ernest. Was very happy to do it.
All right, and thank you again.
All right, so if we have no further questions, then we can end the meeting. If you have anything else to say, Cindy, if not, we really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And again, for a follow-up, if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to offer any more information and to contact me with my email. And also for people to check out my LinkedIn, and that link, the URL is on the last page of the presentation.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.